I think one of the most
Josh.
impactful lessons I've learned from listening to your podcast for the past 4 years came from Jerry, the millionaire educator, back in season 1, with his concept of earning your income and keeping as much as you can on your side of the ledger rather than Uncle Sam's. Sure, it's great to go out and find ways to keep increasing your income and changing jobs and all of this that helps expand your income earning potential. But if you always spend every dollar you make, you'll never be able to retire. You'll never reach financial independence. So there's that inherent need to focus on savings and not spending every dollar that you can that really supercharges your path to FI.
All right. That was our buddy Josh Overmeyer, who's a great friend of the FI community. He's, to a large degree, Josh is the FI community. He's amazing. He's always at all the meetups, Jonathan. He's just a remarkable guy.
Yeah. And to his point, it's one that stood out with me. I mean, really very early on. I remember, Brad, when we were talking about who was our dream guest to get on a show, when we started, like, what was one of the first names I said, we have to get Millionaire Educator on the show? He was episode 13. We'd only interviewed, so you can go to ChooseFI.com/013. I think we'd only interviewed maybe one other person before talking to him. I was so excited to speak with him that I think it took 20 minutes for you to get a single question in. At the end of it, we were like, that was a good interview. But I was like, I wasn't in it, but I mean, yeah.
That was so funny. Yeah, way back. I think our first 3 interviews, I spoke for under 1 minute. That was... I was
so nervous about silence. Like, I was so nervous that we wouldn't have the next, talk about failing and failing forward, Brad. I mean, we picked up podcasting in 2017 and you're like, there's this terrifying mic that you're looking into and you don't know what the next sentence is going to be. And you're like, so just fill the space. There's can't be silent.
But yeah, Josh is spot on with, keeping it on your side of the ledger, just that mentality, right? I think, I know you have cited that dozens of times over the last 4 years as something that just really stuck out to you. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the Millionaire Educator, I think, was either our second or third guest, but I get emails every single week at our feedback@ChooseFI.com email address talking about that episode and how, I'm a teacher and I heard that Millionaire Educator episode and now I get a paycheck that's $2.47 because I'm maxing out my 403B and my 457. And we saved $96,000 this year between myself and my spouse. I legitimately get those emails on a weekly basis. So that is unquestionably one of the most impactful episodes.
I'm trying to remember now what exactly he was living off of, because I know it was a badge of honor to them every single year to go into the HR department and have them come back and say, are you sure about that? Are you going to be okay? And the key is, they were able to, I believe it was either they were living off of, he had done some sort of like SEP 72T or SEP or 72T distribution, or he had money in his taxable accounts, Brad, that he was living off of. It was one of those two. But the key was when you were in the higher marginal tax brackets at 25, 22, 24% beyond, he was making sure all of that would go into, in his case, he actually had access to 2 things. A lot of people don't realize this, and a lot of teachers, state employees have access to this. His 401k. So him and his wife, both teachers, he had access to his 401k. Let's just say it was $18,000 at the time. I know it's gone up since then, $19,000, $19,500, but let's just say it was $18,000 at the time. And his wife, $18,000, putting him at $36,000. And then he had access to another much not as well-known tool called the 403B. It was the 403B. And this is another account that is available for public employees, so state employees, but not limited to teachers. So a lot of firefighters, police officers, state employees have access to this. And it gives you another some odd 18,000, 19,000. I think it matches the 401k limits that you can
19,500.
19,500. Okay, now. So another, again, just matching it back at the time we were talking with him, 18,000, right? So 18,000 with him and another 18,000 for his wife. They were putting at the time somewhere around $72,000+ a year because it was their side of the ledger. They were putting these in these pre-tax accounts I mean, they just built a monster machine, and they weren't making, I mean, they were making, I think they had basically looked and they had found out the rules inside of their teacher district where they could get additional certifications and get a guaranteed raise, teach a sport or something like that, or do an extra, session or period or whatever, and be able to put on another 10%. They basically looked at all the rules and they maximized their income, and then they made sure they kept as much of it as possible. And there was one year where he was saying, we're on 2 teacher salaries with the public school system. And we're not talking about the college level or any high paid level. It's like what most people would think of as a $40,000 to $50,000 a year job. And we, between the two of us, are saving over $100,000 a year because we just looked at the rules and we optimized. See how much better silence is now.
Yeah, you don't feel it. I like it. I'm very impressed. No, it's a remarkable thing. And I think something you said in there is just knowing the rules. Right. I mean, I think that's one of the through lines of what we've picked up at the FI community, is we all are trying to learn the rules of the game. And when you understand them, then you can look at it and say, okay, how can I make this work for me? And this might be unusual, right? Like I might be the only person in the history of my school district that has gotten a $2.47 paycheck, and the HR department might look at me like I'm crazy. But you know what? I just lowered my federal tax to 0, and I saved $90,000 amongst the two of us, and we're going to retire at 45, right? Like just by knowing the rules, by knowing that that's an option, like Millionaire Educator in this case saved tens of thousands of dollars in tax basically every single year. And that's just a cool thing. And I mean, that is but one example of just knowing the rules. It just sets you up for success. So yeah, I think that's a really, really critical lesson, and something we should reiterate, Jonathan, pretty often about just, and we talk about that. Like, okay, do you understand the rules? Do you understand where you are and how to move forward from here?
Send in your own voicemail by tuning into the next live event at ChooseFI.com/live.